Martina walked briskly through the crowded streets of Turin, her face slightly twitching with worry. The lights of the shops were bright as ever, and the sound of traffic filled the air, but all she could hear was the turmoil inside her. For a few months, her life had become a succession of work-related anxieties. As a marketing expert in a large company, she had always had good control over her career and her finances, but now, due to the economic crisis, her world seemed to be falling apart. Sales were falling, and layoffs had become a constant reality. The fear of losing her job tormented her. Every day, the weight of expectations and responsibilities weighed on her more. She longed to find a way to deal with this situation without feeling overwhelmed, but every strategy felt like a grain of sand in a storm. Sighing, she stopped in a small square, a hidden corner of tranquility amidst the hustle and bustle of the city. At that moment, she noticed a Zen temple, simple yet inviting. A deep pull drew her to the place, as if it were a silent refuge in a sea of confusion. She decided to go inside. As soon as she crossed the threshold, the noise outside disappeared. The air smelled of musk and incense, and a sense of calm enveloped her. She sat on a wooden bench, closing her eyes to savor the quiet. As she let herself be lulled by the silence, an old man approached. His face expressed serenity, and his eyes shone with deep wisdom. "Welcome," he said in a calm voice. "I am Sato." Martina, struck by the man's calm, felt at ease. She began to tell him about her worries, her anxieties about work and money, and her fear that the crisis would take everything away from her. Sato listened attentively, not rushing to answer. When she finally spoke, she said, "Life is like a river. Sometimes it flows calmly, other times it encounters obstacles and storms. We cannot control the river, but we can learn to swim with it." Those words resonated in Martina like an echo, touching deep chords in her soul. In the days that followed, Martina returned to the temple to meet with Sato. Each time, he taught her new ways to meditate, to focus on her breathing, and to observe her thoughts without judgment. At first, she found it difficult to detach herself from the whirlwind of worries that plagued her. Her mind was filled with numbers, budgets, and deadlines. However, with time and Sato's patience, she began to feel a change. Her worries did not disappear, but became lighter, less oppressive. She began to understand that she did not have to fight them, but simply let them flow, like leaves carried away by a stream. During one of the meditations, Sato told a story. There was a man who, in a time of great uncertainty, found himself constantly worrying about his future. Every day he woke up with a heavy heart. One day he decided to go into a forest and found a plant growing proudly among the rocks. The man realized that despite the adversities, the plant continued to live, finding its way to the light. Martina listened attentively. The story revealed to her that even in the most difficult moments, there is always the possibility of growing and thriving. After weeks of practice, Martina finally felt a connection with life around her. She began to look at her day with different eyes. Even on her way to work, she noticed the colors of the sky, the people smiling, and the smell of freshly baked bread in the bakeries along the way. For the first time, she felt alive, despite the uncertainties. Her mind, once gripped by fear, began to find serenity. One day, Martina decided to share her new insights with her team. She approached the meeting with a different approach. Instead of just focusing on numbers and sales, let's try to focus on the experience we offer our customers, she proposed. Let's learn to understand their needs, listen to their stories. At first, the team looked at her with skepticism, but little by little, her passion and her new way of seeing things began to influence them. Martina knew it wouldn't be an easy transition, but she was ready to fight for her new vision. Every day, she returned to the temple to meditate, and every day, she returned to work with a renewed spirit. Even as the crisis continued, she felt she was finding a way to deal with it. Her company began to change, and her team members began to collaborate more enthusiastically, inspired by her Zen approach. One afternoon, while she was meditating in the temple, Sato told her, "True abundance does not lie in money, but in our ability to be grateful for what we have and in the way we live our lives. When we learn to be present, our life becomes full of meaning." Those words struck a chord with Martina. Gratitude became her daily mantra. Every morning, before facing the day, she took a moment to reflect on what she was grateful for. A hot coffee, a smile from a colleague, a sunny day. Over time, her perspective on life changed dramatically. The fear of tomorrow faded, replaced by a new awareness. She was no longer at the mercy of events. She was becoming the protagonist of her own story. She began to see challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities to grow and learn. Each economic crisis became a moment to adapt and innovate, rather than a reason to escape. Martina realized that her journey was not just about her career, but also about her personal life. She began to devote time to the things she loved: cooking, walking in the park, reading books, and most of all, spending time with the people she cared about. The connections she had previously neglected now became a source of support and joy. Her vision was coming true, a workplace where creativity and awareness reigned supreme, and where success was measured in experiences, not just profits. One day, while watching the sunset from her office window, Martina understood that the economic crisis, instead of destroying her, had led her to discover an inner strength that she didn't even suspect existed. Every difficulty, every moment of fear, had been an opportunity to reunite her passions and her profession in a single harmony. Martina knew the journey wasn't over. There would be more obstacles to overcome, but she felt ready now. She had learned that, just like the tides, life was a cycle of ups and downs, and that the key to navigating them was finding stability within herself. As the sun sank below the horizon, she felt grateful for everything she had experienced.